SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
State Treasurer David McRae has put hundreds of millions back into the hands of Mississippi's citizens, expanding the state's affordable college and career savings program and also returning record amounts of unclaimed money. Check out how Treasurer David McRae's office can help you, your business, or your organization. Treasury.ms.gov.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning to you on a Tuesday. How are you? Dave Hughes in the seat for Old Croaky. Well, I was sitting here yesterday listening to Gerard, filled with sympathy and kind of chuckling, because if you do this job on a regular basis, you have those moments where you show up, you got to do what you got to do, but you do it like this. I have been there more times than I can count, so I had a lot of, not really even sympathy, empathy for Gerard yesterday. But he struggled through it pretty well. Now today he gets to hopefully rest his voice. I hope he's not doing something stupid like speaking somewhere, because that kind of defeats the purpose. And then he'll be back and ready to rock and roll tomorrow. Rhino in the booth, how you doing this morning, man?
Howdy. Not doing too terribly bad. It looks like the weatherman was wrong. It's not going to rain all day long in the capital city. It's just going to rain a little bit this morning and get out of the way. So I'm happy with that.
We're having the spotty showers period of our weather situation, and that will continue until, well, about December. And then we'll have to wait and see what happens next year. I've got guesses, though.
I'll take spotted showers over the scattered thunderstorms that was yesterday. That was weird. It was like, oh, it's bright sunshiny. Oh, it's storming. Oh, it's bright sunshiny. Oh, it's back to storming.
Yeah, you can't plan. Yeah, well, what are you supposed to do with that? There's nothing you can do with it. A lot of stuff going on. How many times, roughly, Rhino, would you estimate you saw somebody type WWIII last night on X?
At least a baker's dozen.
Yeah, I think it may have been around that, possibly a bit higher for me. Because Trump left the G7 and told everybody to get together in the Situation Room and told everybody in Tehran to evacuate. Okay, so this is another day that ends in Y. What I find so fascinating about this whole process, and don't get me wrong, there's big explosions going off in Tehran right now, the northern part of Tehran. It's not the seriousness of the situation. It is a serious situation. The debate on whether or not America should stick their nose into this, which is raging. And oddly enough, it seems like that discussion is hewing a little less to party lines than most of the other discussions that we've been having. Still mostly along party lines, but there's a lot more dissent on that particular issue. But in the midst of all of this, I just saw a thing that I think summed it up perfectly. Said Iran just days away from a nuclear weapon since 1992. They're not wrong. We've been hearing this forever. And everybody keeps getting worked up over it. Let's just see how this plays out. I know. It's unsettling. There's war in the Middle East. Nobody saw that coming. Except anybody that's been awake for longer than a month. That's been the natural state of being over there forever. So
I was about to say longer than a month.
Yeah, centuries at this point.
We're in the AD, so it's war in the Middle East.
Yes, exactly. And I really have trouble with the people, and there aren't many of them, but there are some, who try to treat this as a subject of shock. Oh, my goodness, how could this happen? Well, they woke up. That's pretty much all it takes, it seems like. And we have to realize that this is kind of a normal thing over there. This has been going on for a while, as we were just joking about. Is it good? No. Does it present problems? Oh, yeah. But it always does. And we need to start treating things as what they are instead of what we try to hype them up to be. Because, Rhino, you and I have talked about this before. The populace of planet Earth, but specifically in America, has become addicted to fear porn. Everything is the worst thing that's ever happened ever in the history of ever. It's never been this bad. That's got to come to an end at some point.
Which is, when you hear somebody say the adults are in charge or the adults are talking, that's kind of where we need to get back to, because I feel like a lot of what drives the fear is the infantilization of society, where everybody wants to perpetually be a teenager. And teenagers are much smarter in some ways than teenagers of previous generations, but fail to have the wisdom of years and the just general knowledge of history, because all of these unprecedented times, or it's never happened before, except it did, just not in your living memory. Within recent memory, but not within their living memory. And it feels like you got even 30, 40, 50-year-olds still stuck in the mind of a 17-year-old, and they refuse to look at the truth of history.
Yeah. And as a result, we are in a near continuous state of panic. As I said, I'm not hand-waving it away. It's not good. There could be some serious repercussions depending on how this plays out. Yes, 100%. And we've got to deal with those and address those. But to act like this is the end of all things, which I see implied by just about everyone talking about it, doesn't do us any favors. It doesn't help. Panic is never an appropriate response. I don't care what's going on. That's a good way to get eaten by the flying sharks, if you panic because you see them hovering. Sometimes a flying shark's just a flying shark. Maybe, I don't know, just a thought. Stay out of its way.
Unless you have a chainsaw.
In which case, go for it. Straight in. Mouth open. Hopefully there's no cicadas, but mouth open, running forward, screaming your battle cry, whatever that might be. What is your battle cry? If you had to run into combat, what would your battle cry be?
Probably something I can't repeat on the air.
Yeah, that would be, that'd have the most juice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Something to stir the blood of patriots. Starts with an F. Farfignugan. No, not that F word. A completely different one. This, again, a serious situation. There's a lot of argument over whether or not America should become actively involved with this, except for Lindsey Graham, who wishes we had started bombing, 30 years ago at this point. He is biggest war hawk I have ever seen. He actually appears to get slightly giddy at the thought of explosions. I am ready for him and a whole lot of other people of that age cohort to go home. Go home.
Long past time.
And stay there, because I'm sorry, before anybody brings up any arguments, we've talked about this many times as well, but before anyone brings up any arguments about, that's ageist, no, I'm going by results. You've been running this for 40 years. How's it going? Do we want it to continue going the way it's going? Well, we just leave them in charge then. If we want something different, if we want to try to improve things in general, you're not going to get there by the same people doing the same things in the same way and having the same arguments while they fight the same fights over and over and over and over. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Lindsey Graham, perfect example. First interview I saw of him, well, we've got to go out and take care of this. No, Lindsey. No, we don't. Calm down. Or maybe we do. But we're not going to decide that on a Sunday morning talk show.
I still don't think you will see active U.S. involvement unless Iran makes the stupid decision to attack U.S. interests and assets that are stationed around the region, but are not encroaching upon their sovereign territory in any way. If they get squirrely and pull something like that, then, yeah, there will be a retaliation.
Yeah, that's a different conversation. That is a completely different conversation. You attack our stuff, we're coming for you.
I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
everybody's talking about the B-2 and the bunker buster. It's like, we're not at Israel's beck and call. They don't get to call in the B-2.
Yeah. Despite what some people would have you believe. Busy show on the way. Monica Kelsey will join us at the bottom of the hour. When we come back, there's plenty of other things to gripe about. That's why I get up in the mornings most days. We'll do that on Middays. Stop laughing at me, Rhino, in the Element Well studios next.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
We're rolling. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
Awesome. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back in the Element Well studios. SuperTalk Mississippi and Middays. In a patriotic frame of mind, are you getting geared up for the 4th already, Rhino?
No, it was just in the system that needed to be played or it was going to get deleted. And I was like, you know what? We've been talking about bombing the Middle East and the anonymous people are claiming they have damaging evidence and all this kind of, and it's just all made up stuff. But it was funny because it reminded me of their V for Vendetta mask. So I was like, it can come full circle.
That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Speaking of people with evidence coming forward, I guess you saw what Kash Patel came out with yesterday.
Yeah.
FBI director. And I'm going to read his post on X exactly as Kash Patel himself wrote it. So if you're looking for a credible source, well, this is the dude. He said, quote, "The FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. elections, including allegations of interference by the CCP, China, the Chinese Communist Party. I have immediately declassified the material and turned the documents over to Chairman Grassley for further review," talking, of course, about Chuck Grassley. Kash Patel says he's found evidence that I guess Chris Wray couldn't locate in the files that show that the Chinese had, the reporting I'm seeing, Rhino, I don't know what you've seen, is that the Chinese had a whole bunch of fake IDs made up for the 2020 election and something like 1.5 million fake ballots printed up to cast in the election for president.
Yeah, that's about the upper bound of what I heard reported. I think I saw someone reporting 800,000 ballots, but that was just a couple of reports. And then the majority of them, have been up towards 1.5 million.
Now, what I would say about that, first of all, and there is a range there, But to my mind, the range doesn't matter. If it was one ballot, we have an enormous problem that needs to be dealt with. 1.5 million, it's a matter of degree, not wrongness in that situation. Number two, I keep flashing back to when former FBI Director Christopher Wray testified in front of congressional committees and everything else, saying that they had no information on any such thing. And of course, at that point, immediately all the liberals ran around, waving their arms over their head and screeching that it's been debunked. I'm getting tired of that word. I'm getting so tired of the word debunked because, well, actually, I think a better way to deal with it right now, we need to start a new word. The 2020 election scandal with possible Chinese interference has now been rebunked. Is that a word? Can it be a word?
Might as well be.
I think it needs to be at this point. If we're going to scream that everything has been debunked, well, I think it can be rebunked when new information comes up that just, well, I couldn't find, my desk was really just slammed with stuff and I just didn't find this in there before I testified to Congress and public to say that there was absolutely no way this happened, when it turns out Christopher Wray's own agency had that information. And now Kash Patel has come out with it. Now, having said all of that, this is a big deal. A lot of people, for whatever reason, kind of punch in the air going, yeah. My question is for those folks. So what do you think's going to happen? What do you think the result is going to be from this? We going to, sue China? We're going to fire Christopher Wray? Oh, wait, he's gone already. Functionally, what result can we hope for from this when you consider the fact that the people that have been screaming for 4 years that it was debunked and never happened aren't going to believe this anyway? So you're not changing hearts and minds. What's the result of this going to be? Even if it's, something signed by Xi that says, yes, let's rig the election, and he signed it. What's this going to change functionally moving forward? I haven't seen a good answer to that. Everyone's running around whooping like an Indian, on the warpath, and not getting down into the nitty-gritty. But this goes back to what we were just talking about right now. Everybody is so big and so invested in emotional responses and trying to make sure everyone knows that they're right that we're not accomplishing anything. Hopefully something will come out of this. Something will be accomplished. Am I missing something right now? I can't think of what positive is going to come out of this in terms of moving forward.
I think at most, after an investigation, if it's proven to be true, that you would have prosecution of Chinese nationals in the U.S., and I don't think they would, even if they had evidence to connect the Chinese government, I just don't see them coming out and saying, hey, China, we got the proof, unless it was to leverage something. Because if they don't do it strategically, all they're going to do is give China ammunition to go, well, yeah, what about all those countries in South America that y'all helped change the government on? And it's just going to get into a big back and forth tit for tat.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yes, it's nice to have some evidence that shows, hey, maybe I was right all along. Great. What have you accomplished? Because we have talked about this. This is one of my guiding principles in life. Results over process. Doesn't matter how we get there. Let's get there. That's the example I keep using. That's the way every football coach runs practice. They're not running practice to make sure they run the best practice ever. They're running practice to win games. That's their goal. They have a result that they're looking for, and they structure their practice and do whatever it takes to make that happen. If instead your chief focus is how you practice and when you practice, and we got to have proper motivation and everything else, all of that is important. But if that's your main focus and your main goal, it's going to make it a lot harder to get there. This to me smells a lot like process. Good. I'm glad it's coming out. What have we accomplished? And before anybody says, well, now we'll know and it won't happen again. Oh, you sweet summer child. It must be nice to live in such an innocent world. So let's keep it, again, this apparently is the theme of the show today. Let's keep a little perspective here. And I would love to hear what the verifiable result will be from this information coming out. Glad it came out. I'm not saying don't release it. No, far from it. I'm talking to the people who seem to think that this is an earth-shattering, politics-changing revelation. It's not. Until we invent a time machine, we can't go back and let President Trump serve his second term starting in 2020. And if we did, he wouldn't be president right now. Where would we be? Things work the way they work for a reason, sometimes. Even, especially, I might go so far as to say, when we don't want them to work that way. Garth Brooks has a song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayers. This is a very common approach to looking at life. Sometimes what you want isn't what you need right then. This is what everybody wanted. Needful? I don't know. I'm not sold that it's going to make an enormous difference. I don't know if you saw the retail sales report came out. Retail sales down 0.9%. They were expecting them to be down 0.6%, and everybody's running around like it's an enormous surprise. Here's a fun news break for those folks. People are broke. People don't have money.
Well, they do. It's just not enough to cover what they need.
Yes. Well, and they're not. The fripperies market is on a downward trend. Fewer and fewer people every day have fripperies money. You go get the necessities, you go home. Dollar General has reported a big surge in people buying their groceries there. All the signs are there. This is not a great mystery. People are broke. But prepare yourself for a solid 48 hours of opinions on this report. And what does it mean? People are broke. That's what it means. It's not that difficult to figure out to me. When we come back, Monica Kelsey, the founder and CEO of Safe Haven Baby Boxes, got a success story there. We'll talk to her about that when we come back on Middays.
From the now.
Morning, fans. It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Middays in the Element Wealth Studios. Dave Hughes here. And we have joining us now the founder and CEO of Safe Haven Baby Boxes and a traveling woman, as you can see on SuperTalk TV, Monica Kelsey. How you doing this morning, Monica?
I'm doing well. How about you guys down south?
Doing fantastic so far. The weather may or may not make it good. Drive safely, by the way, while you're out there riding about. Now, we've got we've got a success story to talk about, and I want to start with that. Actually, I take that back. Before we start with that, for people who aren't aware of it, describe the Safe Haven Baby Boxes program and what it does and what it means and how it works.
So the Safe Haven Baby Box is just an extension of the already existing Safe Haven law, where a parent can walk into any fire station in America or any hospital in America and walk up and hand their child to a person. Well, I designed a box that goes in the side of firehouses and hospitals where a baby can still be delivered to these locations, but instead of if they're out on a call or they're not there, and the parents placing these babies on the ground, they're now being placed in baby boxes that alert 911. They actually call 911 on their own. And so these babies are being picked up in about 2 minutes. And we've got 350 boxes throughout the United States. We've got 5 in the state of Mississippi. And we're saving babies across this country, and to God be the glory for all we've accomplished.
Well, and I think there's a psychological advantage to having the boxes as an option, because some people, it's going to be an almost insurmountable hill to walk up to someone face to face and hand them your baby. This kind of removes that psychological barrier, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and the shame and the judgment that not that these firefighters or these hospital workers are trying to put in front of these parents that are walking in. It's just something that these parents are starting to feel. They are basically saying, I'm best for my child, and it's not me. And no matter what anyone can say or do, they're still going to have that guilt inside. And so this just allows them to do the same thing, which is surrender their child legally, but to do it anonymously, so they don't have to feel that shame. They don't have to feel that guilt, but knowing that their child is going to be saved by the safe haven law and picked up within about 2 minutes.
Which is a fantastic response time. Now, that here in Mississippi has now happened for... Uh-oh. Well, she didn't. Oh, now she froze on us. What we're talking about, we had a second one here in Mississippi that was handed over to one of the baby boxes. She's back. It's magical, Monica. Good job. We had another baby that was turned into a baby box here in Mississippi, right? Second one. Am I right on that?
The second baby this year surrendered in a baby box in the state of Mississippi. And there's only 5 boxes, so we definitely know that we need to get more there.
Well, that was my next question. At what point do you see enough people making use of this that you start expanding the program? And I think you just answered that question.
Well, we never want a parent to utilize this if they don't want to. There's so many options out there for parents, but we don't want to need this resource and not have it in a community. We would rather have a resource in a community that's not being utilized, because if a baby box is needed and there's not one there, we're going to find a dead baby in a dumpster or a trash can, and that's just unacceptable in 2025. And so we're doing everything possible to make sure that these babies are safe. These moms have as many options as they can. But at the end of the day, it's the safety of the infant and the safety of mom.
What got us here? What led you to start this program and get involved in this?
Actually, I was abandoned as an infant back in 1973. And so I've taken my pain and I've taken my story and I've put those two things together and I've made something better for others. And I think that's truly what we're called to do here on this earth, is to do unto others as we would want them to do to us. And so my birth mom didn't have these resources back then, but today women have resources because of my story.
That, to me, is probably the biggest message that you can bring with this organization. Yes, saving the babies is number one. It's hugely important. Giving mothers options when they feel they don't have any. Because when you reach that point, you feel like you have no options. You have nowhere to turn. To me, the most powerful thing about this is you took your pain, took your problems, took your troubles, and turned them into something good. And I think everybody needs to work on using that as a mechanism in their life. And you're a success story from doing exactly that. So I'm sure people have told you before. I don't care. I haven't told you. Great job. Very well done.
Well, thank you. I never wanted to be a victim. I always wanted to just life story, like you said, and turn it into something better for others, because I can't go back. I can't change anything that happened to me. And I think that's what people need to realize with their past, is they can't change the past, but they can certainly change the future and the outcome of stories like mine.
Well, and that's the important thing. And we talk a lot of lip service about doing exactly that, but not everybody takes the actual steps to make it happen. Now, let me ask you, when somebody drops a baby off at one of these baby boxes, and as you said, it's a 2-minute response time, they're there. Somebody's got that baby and has it under control. What happens from there? I assume that varies by state to some extent.
It does. In the state of Mississippi, the babies go to the Department of Child Services and then placed immediately with a foster to adopt family. So who's getting this baby right from the hospital after this baby is taken to the hospital is the adoptive families that are going to keep this baby forever. And so, of course, there's paperwork that's going to take quite a while. So the baby's not going to be officially adopted with this, with the last name of the family right away. But the important thing is this baby's going to be with them, bonding with the family that's going to have them forever. And so it's important for me to have these babies with their forever families immediately. I didn't bond with my biological or with my adoptive parents because I wasn't given to them right away. And so as much as I love my parents and I would do anything for them, the bond just wasn't there with my mother. And so for me, I want to, again, do this for others to make sure that these babies are bonded with these adoptive moms so that the outcome is better for them.
One other thing that your personal story proves in relation to this, because we have people that see baby boxes and the horror stories that you mentioned earlier about babies being found dead in a dumpster, which is a true thing. That has happened multiple times around the country.
Yes.
Your story is a great illustration that disproves an attitude that seems to have built up over the last decade, which is that things are getting so bad, moms are now abandoning their baby. No, this is not a new problem. This didn't just start happening, did it?
No, actually, this is something that's been happening for many, many generations. The Safe Haven Law, the original Safe Haven Law, was actually enacted 25 years ago, where parents can surrender their babies. But what we were finding still, even with the Safe Haven Law, was that babies were being left at the doors of safe haven locations. Fire stations, even if they're 24/7, if there's a fire, they're all leaving. They're not staying at that building. And so if a mother comes to surrender her infant at that fire station and they're not there, what is she going to do? She's going to leave that baby on the ground. And so we don't want that to happen. It's been happening way too often across this country, and we're now doing something about it to make sure that these babies are safe. But abandonments have been happening for generations, and I think today we're being called for this. For such a time as this, I think is the words.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. Now, I hate to put you on the spot, but where are the boxes in Mississippi? You said we have 5 of them, right?
Oh my goodness, you would ask me that.
I told you I was going to put you on the spot here.
Long Beach, I think, has 2, and then, of course, Mendenhall, Collins. Collins was the other location that had a baby this year in January. And then, for the life of me, I can't remember the 5th one. But you can go to our website, which is shbb.org, and there's a list of every location in America. And so you can just find out which location's closest to you or count all the Mississippi locations. But I can't, for the life of me, remember.
I got to tell you, Monica, you're dealing with several hundred of these things spread all around the country. How dare you not have ours memorized?
Right. I should have before I even got on this call, to be honest with you.
Well, that's why I prefaced it with, I'm putting you on the spot because I knew where that was going. I wouldn't remember them. I don't remember my own phone number some days. So, yeah, I get it 100%. And, of course, this is one of the things I want to make sure that we make clear. This is privately funded, right?
It is. We don't take tax dollars, federal or state. And so everything is done by donations. So people who believe in our ministry that give us their hard-earned money. That's what it goes to. It goes to baby boxes across this country, billboards. We run a hotline, a 24-hour hotline where parents can call us and get information about the resources in their area. And so, it's one of these things that is Christ-driven. Wherever he wants us to go is where we're going to go. And if he doesn't want us going there, I'm sure he'll shut that door.
We've got about 20 seconds before we go. If someone likes what you're doing and wants to help out, how do they get a hold of you?
Go to shbb.org. They can go to the Contact Us. They can make a donation there. They can get a ton of information, and they can see everything about what we're doing across this country.
Monica, Kelsey, appreciate your time. Again, travel safely, and we will talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I just want to be yours, baby.
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart.
We really need the explosion noises in the background to make this appropriate right now. Welcome back. Middays in the Element Wealth Studios, SuperTalk, Mississippi. That song, of course, used in Fallout, seems sadly appropriate in some ways right now to have that. No, have you noticed something? We had the big rush of news last night when Trump was at the G7 and just confounding everyone, as usual. That's what he does. And then he left. He left early. He was supposed to be up there today. He had a press conference. He had a couple of meetings with other leaders. He left early, said he had to get home to tend to some very important matters, and then instructed the National Security Council to assemble in the Situation Room and be there when he got there. And then we haven't really heard much since then. Did I miss something, Rhino?
There were reports a few hours ago of some loud explosions in Tehran, but I haven't seen a whole lot on it. And there was some reporting just after we got on the air, I think it was from Bloomberg, that Russia is withdrawing their support for Iran.
Really?
Haven't seen it confirmed anywhere, and I haven't actually put eyes on the Bloomberg article. But, yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, because they have been just tight as they could be for a while. I thought it was interesting when I saw, I think it was yesterday, that Russia, China, and for some reason Argentina, all three, demanded that their citizens leave Israel immediately. Get out of the country. Get out of the way. Which I think probably in the case of China and Russia was trying to send a message that, oh, it's coming, indirectly. Argentina, I don't know what Malay's doing. I don't know where that came from, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, if Iran loses the support of Russia and China, they're kind of done, aren't they?
Well, I think the only support they were ever really going to get from China was going to be China is willing to sell them what they want to use to terrorize the world, in the Middle East specifically. Russia would, before the reporting, I would have thought would be more likely to lend military aid, if for no other reason than to put on a good face, put on a good show of, oh yeah, Ukraine's not such a big deal, we can help Iran out, to try to flex, even though they don't have that strength even on paper anymore. Yeah, and that is an interesting development if that is true. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But I just found it very interesting that after that huge rush of news that stirred everybody up, made a big deal, drew attention to the whole thing, and then it just kind of went quiet. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? It depends on your attitude, I guess, your outlook. Could be either one, could be both, actually, before it's over with. I will say, thank goodness we have something to concentrate on, because there hasn't been anything going on anywhere at any time. Crying out loud. Are you ready for a boring week, or is it just me? Oh, I've been ready for a boring week since about March of 2020.
Do not give me flashbacks. I don't want to go back to that time. Not even mentally.
Helicopter noises, 1,000-yard stare.
no toilet paper. That'll mess you up more than that. That's PTSD.
I hesitate to talk about it on the air just because I need to preface this with, this is not happening, this is not going on, but this is why you should take things seriously. With the now, 3 arrests of Chinese nationals, Chinese students bringing basically agricultural weapons into the U.S., you thought toilet paper shortages were bad.
Yeah.
If these Chinese nationals did have ill intent and were not caught and were able to blight major crops in the United States, that would get ugly in a hurry.
It really would. And one of those 3, the stuff that they found on her, that they found with her, they have said it was a type of fungus that would, if introduced into the ecosystem in America, wipe out 90% of our wheat crops. Yeah. How about we don't do that? I think would be great, but we just have to stay consciously aware of everything going on and all the various things everyone's trying. And eventually we'll get to the find out portion of the situation. We have Fox News, SuperTalk Mississippi News, and hour number 2 coming up next.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. SuperTalk Mississippi Middays in the Element Wealth Studios on a Tuesday morning. Dave Hughes here. And we are joined now by Brigadier General Joe Spraggins. And he's about to get really busy about 2 weeks from today, thanks to the new law going into effect regarding the labeling of seafood in his role as the Executive Director of the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. General, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Dave?
Doing fantastic. And you are about to be busy come July 1st, aren't you?
Well, we'll be a little bit busier than normal, yes, but we are very well planned and very well prepared for it.
Now, in case you're not familiar with what's going on, explain what the Seafood Labeling Act is and where your department comes into this.
It's basically to be able to label what you have. If you're a restaurant or if you're a processor or if you're a seller, of seafood, you need to be able to tell us whether it's domestic or foreign. And the reason for that is people in South Mississippi or across the state of Mississippi deserve the right to know that whenever they come into a restaurant or to a seafood market or wherever to buy seafood, that they know where it's coming from. Is it foreign or is it domestic? And so many things are being misrepresented here on the coast and other places that this new law will allow us to be able to now go in and check these things and be able to and let people tell the truth. Is it foreign or is it domestic? And most people who come here won't, they think that they're getting, probably Gulf of America seafood. That's what they're thinking. And but they at least think they're getting fresh seafood. And so at least tell them what it is. And that's what it's all about.
Well, I have noticed, because I'm a big seafood eater. I'm a big seafood fan. I have noticed that everything falls into one of 2 categories when it comes to labeling on seafood. It either proudly says, farm raised in Mississippi or United States product, or it doesn't say anything at all. This kind of helps address that lie of omission, we'll call it, by just not saying anything at all and hoping you don't notice, right?
That's true. And, and this is also, we'll go into, for crawfish is involved in this too, in this bill. And so Secretary of Ag, Andy Gibson, is working with us hand in hand, and they will help us to enforce this. And basically, if you've got seafood, if it's fish or if it's shrimp or if it's oysters or if it's crabs, and they're on your menu, and it should state whether it is domestic or foreign. All right. If it's on a seafood market and you have it displayed, it should state whether it's domestic or foreign. If it's in a grocery store, it should state whether it's domestic or foreign. And if it's mixed and you have both of them together, then it has to be considered as foreign. And you can do that, and you can just say, hey, this is a mixture of both. We're calling it foreign. Now, we are being open with some things like if you serve gumbo, it may have some foreign product and some domestic product. And so we're given the leadway there to say that you can put that this contains both foreign and domestic products. And so those type things we're looking at. But the idea is for you to be able to tell us exactly what we're buying. If I go into a seafood market, I need to know if that is fresh, if that is American grown, or if it is foreign grown. And that's what I need to know. If I go into a restaurant and I'm buying a platter of shrimp, I need to know, is it a domestic or is it foreign?
Well, and that does bring up one question, and we've talked about this before, but does this put a little more burden on restaurants and places that serve cooked, prepared seafood for knowing? Because a lot of times they just buy it from the guy that shows up. I assume this puts a little more, to use a forensic term, it puts a chain of evidence into place, right?
It does, but the restaurants will be understanding about that. I realize that they get different things different weeks, and it depends on what they can get from their wholesaler who they're buying from. And there's ways of putting things but as you can tell, there's a lot of restaurants on the coast that serve nothing but American seafood. And and they can display that too, and they can go out and display a sign that says that we serve nothing but domestic, and that's great, because you don't have to worry about it at that point. But the ones that it's no different than catfish. That law went into effect 50 years ago, in 1975, that you had to put whether it was foreign or was it domestic catfish. So that law has been there forever, and they follow those rules, and so it's nothing different. I think they'll fall in line. It'll take them a little time to catch up on some things, but we'll be very lenient about that.
Now, what you said just then, would a restaurant be in compliance if they just put it on their sign out front, serving only domestic raised and caught seafood? Would that put them in compliance with the law?
If that's all they serve, it would put them in compliance.
Okay. So that, in other words, there are some simple solutions. If you're following the law and you're doing this correctly, there are some simple solutions to take care of this where you don't have to get all your menus reprinted and you don't have to get signs for the counter and everything. You can just put it right out front so that people know when they pull up to park, and that will cover you if you are in fact serving domestic only seafood, right?
That's right. Right, and that will cover us, and that would be ideal. If everybody served only domestic, we'd be fantastic. But that's not going to happen because 95% of the shrimp in America is imported, and so what we're trying to do is our shrimp industry, especially, is dying on the coast. And just to give you an idea, that around in 2008 we had about 800 shrimpers that would go out on the first day. This last year we had 42. It tells you what the situation is going. It is dropping off because they can't afford to go shrimping because of the cost. It costs you too much to go out there, and by the time you go there and then you come back and and you having to sell your domestic shrimp for the price of import shrimp, then it's not helping you, and you're not able to do it. So hopefully this will get restaurants and others wanting to be able to sell domestic. And because of that, then they'll be able to get a little bit more for their price and be able to keep the fishermen in operation. And plus, it'll let us be able to, you don't know what you're eating. If you get something from Vietnam, it's a shrimp from Vietnam, you don't know where it was grown. I'm not just using that country, but any country. You don't know how it was done. You don't know how it was grown. You don't know anything about it. You don't know what type of bacteria or anything it might have in it. where if you're grown in the Gulf of America, I almost messed up. If you're grown in the Gulf of America, then, it's a different shrimp, and we know that. And we know that shrimp's a good shrimp. If it was farm raised in America, we know that has been inspected and it's a different shrimp. So that's the things that we're looking at. We want people to know the difference.
Well, until you have ordered, and going back to that old law with catfish, until you have ordered a plate of fried catfish and you take that first bite and realize it's tilapia that they were telling you was catfish, you don't understand the problem, I think. And that can be a problem in quality, in taste, in safety, and all of that. Now, one thing the other thing I do want to make sure, this is not a law that requires them to label that it was farm raised or caught in Mississippi. It's in America, right? It's domestic.
That's right. It is in America. So it is domestic. It can be farm raised. It can be caught, wild caught, in America. Either way about it, and it has to be processed in America.
Now, having said that, if you're serving raised or caught in Mississippi seafood and you're not labeling as such and shouting it from the rooftop, what are you even doing with your business?
Well, yeah, I mean, you should be. Just like, there's nothing better than, I hear the advertisement all the time with the farm-raised, Mississippi-grown catfish, and everybody in the world loves that. I mean, and the thing about it, when you go into a restaurant in Mississippi, you expect it. That's something you expect. You expect to get Mississippi catfish. You expect to get, at least a domestic catfish. And if not, it has to be labeled. And but the point is, it is a different taste, and it's the same thing as if you're getting a shrimp or any type of fin fish or crab or anything from a foreign country compared to being in America. The American shrimp and American seafood is a lot better, and you can just tell the difference in the taste of it. And and you're paying for it, so why not at least get what you're paying for?
2 weeks from today, July 1st, that law goes into effect in Mississippi, and the General's troops will be mobilized and out and taking care of business, making sure everyone is following this new law. I think it's a good move, and I got to tell you, it's great to have somebody like you in charge of it, because you're going to get this taken care of, no doubt.
Well, thank you. And we're also having some workshops there on June the 19th at 2 p.m.
Well, I tell you what, if you can hold on through the break, we'll talk about that in depth when we come back.
Okay, we can do it.
Fantastic. Brigadier General Joe Spraggins continues with us on Middays in the Element Wealth Studios next.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
Now, on to the real part.
Dynamite! On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Middays in the Element Wealth Studios, SuperTalk, Mississippi, and Brigadier General Joe Spraggins with us, the Executive Director of the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. And right before the break, I didn't want you to have to just cram that in the last few seconds, because I want to make sure we give some coverage to that. You said you have some workshops coming up.
We do. We have a workshop, and it's going to be on Thursday, June the 19th at 2 p.m. at the DMR building in the main conference room downstairs at the Bolton building. And we also have one on Thursday, June the 26th at 9 a.m. and another one on Thursday, July the 1st at 2 p.m. What do we go with that is if you have a restaurant or if you have a seafood dealership or whatever, and you have any questions about what you should be doing, how you should be labeling it, what you should be doing, you can come to this workshop, and we will sit down and go over and try to answer each and every question that you have. And hopefully that will get a lot of people's worry about whether they're compliant or not by the time that we go in effect July the 1st. So that'll help out. And we'll also have it on our website, which is our DMR website. If you go to it, you'll be able to look at it. It's an icon, but it's a little symbol right there in the front. It'll be in the middle of the website, and it will state about the House Bill 602 and what we're doing. And you can pull up, and it will give you all types of questions and answers that we've had already. And so we will have that for you if you have any questions. And as we get them, we'll update that also.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about the website. As you have people come to these workshops and ask a question you haven't heard before, you can pop that up on the website, and it's available for everyone, whether they're able to attend a workshop or not. So I would say over the next 2 weeks, keep checking the website over and over, because I suspect it might be updated at some point, especially that question and answer session, right?
It will be. It will be updated probably daily, at least numerous times daily, if there is questions. And so we will look at that. The idea is to give everybody as much information as possible. We're not trying to go out there and hurt your business. We want you to get in compliance. And as I tell them, it's kind of like we give you a speed law as to what you can go. It's up to you to comply to that speed law. We're going to give you everything that we can to help you be able to do that. We're going to help you be able to comply with the laws that we have in the state of Mississippi.
And that's the thing that I know some people have a different knee-jerk reaction when things like this come up. Exactly what you're saying. They're out to get me. No, we're just trying to set a level playing field for everybody and make sure you have the opportunity to participate on that playing field. That doesn't seem too onerous to me, but again, I'm not in the restaurant business, and that's a high-stress business. Let me say that. They have a lot of balls they keep in the air at all times, and adding another one may have made some people kind of groan a little bit. But I think ultimately this is going to be a fantastic move forward in the state of Mississippi for the most important people in this entire process and what this is all designed for, which are the customers. That's what this is focused on, right?
It is. It is focused on the customer getting what they're supposedly paying, what you're paying for, being able to get and know what you're eating. And also for people to have the ability to be able to go into a restaurant and promote it. And, if you have a restaurant and that's what you're doing, and there's some on the coast here already that we're already promoting that they serve, domestic only. And those people are going to be able to go out and really push their restaurant as, hey, we only serve domestic American caught seafood. So or process, either whether it's farm raised or where it's wild caught. So that's going to be a big issue that people will look at. And and when we walk in your business, I mean, obviously we're not going to knock on every door on July the 1st and say, hey, are you compliant? We're going to go in and we're going to do it, and it'll be a random checks that we do. And once we check it, we'll look at things, and then we'll sit down. If you have something that's not in compliance, we will help you. And we'll say, hey, okay, you're not in compliance with this. We need you to get in compliance. Here's what you need to do, and here's how to do it. And we'll give you about 3 or 4 days, and then we'll probably come back and check you again. So we're not going to hurt you. We're not going to say, all right, we're writing you a ticket, and this is what's happening. We want you to get in compliance.
That's the goal of this, and might be a little rough at the start with some folks, but it's going to work out just fine. I have no doubt. Probably the biggest question that I need to ask you before you go, though, General, been fishing lately? Had any luck?
No, I haven't, and and that's not a good thing. We are having the governor's saltwater fishing classic here on the 24th, 25th of June. And that's for the foundation. We're part of the Mississippi Wildlife Fisheries Parks and Marine Foundation now. And so this is our part of it, to being basically a counterpart to the governor's hunt. And so we're going to go snapper fishing, and we're going to go cobia fishing. And so hopefully I'll get to go out that day and catch some fish. I tell you what, that's the bad part about the job. You don't get out very much. I'd love to be out there fishing today.
I'm going to be honest. You're doing a yeoman's job. You're doing fantastic work, but at the same time, just want to make sure everybody is aware the executive director of the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources doesn't have time to go fishing. We need to deal with. Can somebody give this man a day off? He needs to wet a line. I'm trying to go to bat for you,
right.
General.
And I got something else I want you to see here. We have these hats that we are making. It says, "Make Seafood American Again."
Oh, that's awesome. Whose idea was that?
Yeah, it's a Make Seafood American hat. And, because that's what we're talking about. We used to be the seafood capital of the world in South Mississippi. Let's make it American again. Let's make it the seafood capital of the world here. How do you do that? You go in and you start serving the right products and doing it the way you should do and giving people. And when people start coming into the restaurants and asking you, is this domestic? Is this Gulf of America? Then that will be good. That will be great. And I hope and if you're out there and you're going into the restaurants, ask them. If they don't have it put down, ask them, is this American? Is this a domestic? Is this a Gulf of America seafood? Ask them about it. Because you know what? The more people they ask, the more people they're going to want to do it. They're going to want to put it there. And then when the restaurants can sell the product, they will definitely buy it.
This will ultimately, over time, it's not going to be an overnight thing, but over time, this will change the expectations of both the customers and the sellers. It's just going to take a little time to play out before it gets through and they realize, oh, this is the way we need to go here. And then I think that will be a positive change across them. Hopefully we can get the number of shrimp boats going out up a little bit in the future. Well, those two numbers you gave me were stunning.
Well, if you give them the ability to go out and do it, there's people who still want to do it. And if you give them that ability and where they can make a good living doing it, they will go there. The shrimp are there. We have an abundance of shrimp. It's not the problem there. We have plenty of shrimp to catch. It's just the fact that, can I go out and can I take my boat, which costs a lot of money, to put it out of plus $4 or $5 a gallon for diesel fuel, and then go back with all the ice and everything else I have to buy, and then can I come back and can I bring that shrimp back and sell it for a reasonable price? But people on the coast and the people in the state of Mississippi are asking for Gulf Fresh, then they're gonna, people are gonna want to bring it to you, and then they're gonna pay for it, and so the people will do it, and the processors are gonna pay for it, and then they will turn around and send it forward.
It's a positive move. I look forward to the results. As I said, major seafood fan, have been my entire life. And this is going to be a great move going forward, I think. And once again, I want to put out the call one more time. If somebody can give the general a day off, he would like to go fishing. I don't think that's an unreasonable request for him to make. That's kind of like walking the floor in the shop, isn't it? You got to go out and do some fishing just to check and see how things are going, right?
I think that's true, but, I work straight for the governor of the state of Mississippi, and he doesn't take very many days off either. So, the man is working hard every day. And so I understand, and, that's part of the job.
You're doing a fantastic job of it, and I wish you and your team the best of luck as you go out starting in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, July 1st. You got those 3 workshops. If you would, give us the dates of those 3 workshops again, so that people know what to look for.
It's Thursday, June the 19th at 2 p.m. at the Bolton Building in DMR. Thursday, June the 26th at 9 a.m. And then Tuesday, July the 1st at 2 p.m.
Brigadier General Joe Spraggins, the Executive Director of the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources in the state of Mississippi, trying to make seafood American again. I love it. I love it. That was a fantastic idea somebody had. There it is, right there. General, enjoyed talking to you, sir. Keep up the fantastic work.
Thank you very much, Dave, and appreciate what y'all do, too. And thank y'all for helping us get the word out.
Oh, I'll talk about seafood all day. Just try me. That's no hill to climb at all, my friend. No hill at all. We will continue on Middays in the Element Wealth Studios right after this on a Tuesday morning. Keep it here.
We've done all we can.
Middays with Gerard Gibert. It is on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
And during the few moments that we have left, we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Yes, the big hit known as CM Punk's walk-in music. I dare say more people know it for that now than for the actual song by the Fine Young Cannibals that it is. Because that was too long ago, and as you know, anything that happened more than 20 years ago, well, that didn't exist. That's what we were talking about earlier. Welcome back. Middays in the Element Well Studios, SuperTalk, Mississippi. I got one. Oh, we're going to stir something up, but then that's kind of what I do. There's this big thing going on online. Controversy. Because this woman went to her child's kindergarten graduation. And they put a rule in place at the kindergarten graduation that parents could only clap for their kid once. And by that I mean one clap. When your kid gets their kindergarten diploma because they finally stopped eating the crayons, you're allowed to go. And people are coming unglued. That's horrible. That's dystopian. That's all. Well, no, you ruined something else. Because if you didn't scream and yell and cheer and make a huge deal because he now has his shoes on the right foot, you wouldn't ruin it for everybody else. So now we're down to one clap. What do you think about that one, Rhino? I'm just curious to get your take on this because I know what it's going to be, but I'm just curious.
If you're going to limit it to one clap, just don't let them clap.
Thank you. That's my thought. What's the point? That is an attitude of appeasement. You know, we'll let them do something. But why one? Why not three? Why not five? No yelling allowed. This doesn't even address, and now see, I'm about to tick some people off. I would like to remind you, for those that are new, I don't care. Kindergarten graduation. No.
It's already a bit of a stretch.
Yes, that is part of the culture of celebrating mediocrity. I mean, here's the thing. You go to high school graduations, the kids accomplish something, okay? Not everybody graduates high school. That's a sad fact, but that's also a reality. College graduation. Definitely not everybody graduates college. How many people have flunked kindergarten?
Actually flunked? Not all that many. I know several from my generation that were held back. And generally, in my generation, if you were held back in kindergarten, it was because of your birthday falling in a weird way with the registration, or your dad had aspirations for you athletically, so he wanted you to be a little bit older for your age group.
Yeah. Reasons that had nothing to do with the performance of the child and their kindergarten duties. Kindergarten duties. This is what we've come to. This is the discussion we're having. Now, did you do a really good job in kindergarten? Yeah, you brag on the kid, obviously. I just still worry that we spend so much time, energy, effort, and money in making sure that the kids are showered with accolades 24/7, that when they finally reach the real world and they're not being continuously showered with accolades, they fall apart, and then we want to be upset at them for it. That's insane to me. That's insane behavior. If you teach them that every time they burp, they get a trophy or a participation certificate, and then they get in the real world and their boss yells at them and they fall to pieces, why would anyone be surprised? That's literally all they've been trained to expect. To me, kindergarten graduation kind of falls into that category. And they keep, expanding this. We have junior high graduation. I saw one place had third grade graduation. And I'm like, that to me is cheapening the actual graduations that count. Just me. I know it's just my opinion. And I have a whole bunch of moms that are shaking their enormous metallic drink tumbler full of sparkling water at the speakers right now, upset. I'm not attacking your baby. Not saying your baby is anything other than a perfect little angel. All little kids, all kindergartners are. Come on. If you don't love little kids, what's wrong with you?
Oddly enough, nobody seems to be up in arms about the condemnation of kindergarten graduations, but we do have a lot of people correcting you on the band that performed Cult of Personality. It wasn't Fine Young Cannibals. They were famous for She Drives Me Crazy.
That's right.
It was In Living Color.
Yes. Doggone it. Exactly right. Thank you for that.
Or Living Color.
Yeah, In Living Color. They actually, WWE hired them, and they came out and played CM Punk in live at one of the WrestleManias. They were up on the stage in front of the walk-in area. So, yes, thank you for the correction. 100% correct. It was In Living Color. I don't know why I came up with Fine Young Cannibals.
Maybe you were thinking of Highlander, the TV series. Because the lead singer of Fine Young Cannibals, Roland Gift, did play Xavier St. Cloud in Highlander, the TV series.
I would just like to point out and to clarify this for everyone on planet Earth. I never think of Highlander, the TV series. I don't think many do. The movie was spectacular, the first one.
The first one, yes.
And then the quality continually declined. And then we got to the TV show, and I didn't even watch it. I'm like, who cares? Okay, sorry. So, you said not a lot of complaints about the criticism of kindergarten graduation. This is a problem that has built up for the last 30 years that is causing a lot of the problems we're dealing with now. This mindset, this attitude, this mentality that every single step should be celebrated until you hit about somewhere between 18 and 23, in which case, yep, bragging's over. Name any living creature that you would train for 20 years, say the first fifth of their lifespan, to do one thing and expect a reward for it over and over and over and over and over. And then turn that off and tell them to shut up and quit expecting treats. That doesn't work. Never has, never will. But that was the problem with leaning into feelings instead of actual facts. Did you hear what the new mayor of Chicago is doing?
I don't know how they managed to elect someone worse than Lori Lightfoot, but they pulled it off.
They did a really good job of digging a few layers deeper into the crazy minds and bringing up a load of ore. Because here we are. Two things. Number one, he is wanting to put reparations in place. Here we go again. But then he's got the sign ordinance where if the front window of a business, if the window is more than 25% covered by a sign or signs, they get a $500 fine per day. What is the point of that? What's the goal?
I think the defense they gave of it was so that police could see inside of businesses to better patrol.
Yes, because if there's one thing that Chicago is noted for, world famous for, it's their law and order. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's nonsense is what it is. That's a way to generate fine money from businesses trying to operate and mind their own business in the city of Chicago, if you ask my opinion. That's what it is. $500 a day because you had a sign that was a little bit too big. And what's interesting is there are no distinctions. If you have one of those big transparent signs where the background is just a decal, an applique for the glass, and it just looks like there's words on the glass. It's not a big square that's black. It doesn't matter. They go by the size of the square, even if it's see-through.
Well, you got to remember, this is the same city with similar governance that sold the rights to their parking meters to a private company for about $1 billion in 2008. And it's been a big hole in their budget ever since.
Yes. Sometimes it's better to be blind than short-sighted. And that's exactly what they did. It's hard to walk properly when you keep shooting yourself in your foot. We continue on Middays in the Element Wealth Studios after this. Keep it here.
Up a Mississippi.
You know what that means.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. As some pretty gnarly thunder starts sounding outside, we have little showers and storms popping up all over Mississippi again, as usual. Kind of what we expected. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. And it starts really kind of just north of a line through Canton all the way down to almost the coast. Just little spotty, scattered showers all over the place. And that, I'm afraid, is our weather for probably a while over the next few days, just because it's already been several days that it's been kind of the weather. It doesn't look like anything's popping up in your neck of the woods yet, Rhino, really. Not right there, anyway. Of course, you're in the vault in there, so you wouldn't hear it.
Yeah, I have to, walk out of the studio and either step outside or go over to the blinds and adjust the blinds to be able to see the daylight.
Yeah, not quite the same thing here. I got big blinds right here, big window right next to me, and then plenty of access to the thunder noise. So if you hear it in the background, yeah, it's just the way the day is going, apparently. Did you hear Elon's digging a tunnel in Tennessee?
Well, they're finishing up, or they're finishing part of it up in Vegas, aren't they?
Yeah, they're partially done with that, but apparently in Tennessee, they are digging a tunnel from, I think, the airport to someplace. The state of Tennessee is in discussion with them from an airport to someplace else for Elon to bring his giant boring company over and dig a big hole. Now, having said that is a cool thing for a very specific definition of cool, I guess. I don't know if you've seen that thing moves very slowly.
Oh, yeah.
But I think people miss, you look at it and you're like, why does he do all of these ridiculous things? He's got a giant tunnel digging machine, company formed around it. He's got social media. He's got AI. He's got electric vehicles, electric transportation. He's got the brain chips. He's doing all of these things. Every last one of these things circles around his main goal in life, which is to start a colony on Mars. All of this would be useful there. Just so happens he's made a ton of money making stuff that will help in the process of forming a Mars colony. The boring company, the big tunnel digger that's coming apparently to Tennessee. That's going to be the easiest way to make some type of settlements. If you get to the surface of Mars, take one of those, dig one out.
Yeah, especially considering, from what we understand of the Mars surface, it doesn't have the one major drawback of doing anything underground on Earth, and that's water.
Yeah.
The farther down you go, the harder it is to keep water out, and the more time and energy you have to spend pumping water out. because no matter how well you seal it, the pressure is still going to find a way, and that's why all of the crazy futuristic concepts for underground cities and stuff that were popular in the golden age of sci-fi, that's why you don't see any of that, because it's a nightmare the farther down you go.
Yes, and, it's, by the way, I found it, the proposed tunnel in Tennessee would connect the Nashville International Airport with downtown Nashville. The Nashville Business Journal put this out, that Elon is in talks to bring his giant mole machine over and build that tunnel. And I understand the tunnels are nice. I think you would have to be kind of careful. I don't know what kind of safeguards can you put into place talking about water. If you get a flash flood, well, it's not usable at that point, is it?
Not without some pretty serious precautions and systems in place.
No, he'll just start another company up, the Giant Cork Company. When the rain's coming in, you just cork both ends until it's done. Don't laugh. We've seen many stupider things launch over the last 10, 20 years. So,
like Bill Gates' idea to dim the sun. He's bringing that back up.
Oh, he's still on that.
We talked about Highlander earlier. I'm pretty sure that was the plot of Highlander 2, and it didn't go well in that movie.
No, of course, at that point, any day now, ChatGPT is going to start asking us if we're Sarah Connor. So we didn't learn anything from the movies of the 80s and 90s. That's becoming more obvious by the day. Up next, we have news from Fox News, SuperTalk, Mississippi News, and then hour numero 3 here on Middays in the Element Well Studios. Keep it here.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Middays here in the Element Wealth Studios on a Tuesday morning. A little stormy Tuesday for some locations, but trust me, look at the radar, just give it a minute, and you'll be back to normal weather. Dave Hughes here on Middays, and we have some updates from President Trump on Truth Social over the last hour that we need to pay a little attention to, and I'm just going to read what he has written in 3 different posts over the last hour. First one was, we now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran has good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Technical term, with stuff in quotation marks. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. So he says we have air superiority. We have air control over Iran. The next post, we know exactly, listen to this one, we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding, talking about Ayatollah Khomeini. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, parentheses, kill, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. And then he ends it with, thank you for your attention to this matter. Like it's a business meeting follow-up email about a lunch. We're not going to kill you yet, but you're pushing it. the basic message there. And then the final one in all caps, it just says unconditional surrender. I think we're getting a pretty good idea of where President Trump's mindset is at regarding this entire thing at this point, Rhino. I think he's making it pretty clear where he's at, what he's thinking, and where we're headed if something doesn't change.
Yeah, and he's been pretty consistent from the get-go. He was talking about it on day one. We gave him 60 days. Today is day 61.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, that is a little different messaging regarding the Ayatollah. By the way, I saw a very pretentious news person pronouncing it with a silent K, Khomeini. Okay, fine. But, you know, we had the thing to where it was reported that President Trump intervened with Prime Minister Netanyahu and Israel and said, no, don't go assassinate him. Don't go kill him. Don't do that. That was the reporting anyway. Now he's coming out and saying, we're not going to kill you yet. At least not right now. I'm not even sure that qualifies as an implied threat, really. I mean, that's just kind of a threat, isn't it?
Yes and no. I mean, you don't come out and say we're not going to kill you, because then they'll just spin that as, see, they fear us. So you have to include the caveat of at least not today.
Yeah, not right now. But, once again, keep pushing it. Keep pushing us and see where we wind up. And you would think that kind of talk, that kind of rhetoric, would carry a little weight after how the military leadership in Iran has been just decimated, more than decimated, with some of those targeted attacks at the very beginning from Mossad that took out the head of just about every single major military organization in Iran. There's a lot to be said for that methodology. I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit in somebody else's yard that I'm not familiar with necessarily, but I do know this. Sometimes it is more effective to sow discord and confusion with a group, to take out all of the trusted people underneath the leader instead of taking out the leader. If you take out the leader, everybody just moves up. If you take out all the people, he's used to looking at them and going, take care of this, and they just take care of it. All of a sudden, all of those people are gone. Well, the head guy is still in charge. He's still trying to run things, but he's trying to run things with a brand new staff that isn't 100% on the same page. And that leads to confusion. That leads to a loss of effectiveness. So there's a lot to be said, to me anyway, for that strategy. What do you think the odds are, Rhino? Over under. What do you think the odds are that we eventually pull the trigger and get involved in this somehow? I know we talked about this at the beginning of the show, but now things have changed. Maybe a hair, just a little bit.
I'm still thinking that we're not going to get actively involved unless Iran gets sideways with us and attacks our interest or our assets. Because you notice Trump said American made, American conceived. He made sure to caveat that it was not Americans doing the attacking.
Yes,
it's
American
Israel
made,
using what we made.
He said American made, conceived, and manufactured stuff.
So that tells me he's still trying to be consistent on no new wars, but he understands something has to happen. If Israel is willing to do the work, we're already selling them all this stuff. We can always sell them more.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It is, as it always is in the Middle East, a sticky situation. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because it's not just Iran. You've got Pakistan sitting there. You've got other countries. And at any given moment, somebody else can decide they want to be a part of all of this. And that changes the calculus of everything if anybody else steps in. Right now, everybody is showing a lot of restraint, going, yeah, no, okay. We could get involved. We might get involved, but we're not. As long as it stays like that, it can possibly be dealt with in an appropriate manner. Having said that, we've had so many bombs dropped and missiles launched at this point, I think we're past the appropriate manner portion of this program anyway. But, unless they get froggy, and now at that point, if they do something and attack an American facility or something like that, well, it's a whole different conversation then. It's not even much of a conversation. We defend our own. That's the way it works. But I've seen a lot of talk. The Democratic talking point about this entire subject has been, well, the president can't get involved in this without congressional approval. As with everything, that's a little bit of a gray area. Technically, it would be true if we were going to declare war. If we're not declaring war, we're instead helping an ally. I don't know. Just like everything else, you could argue it either way, because if there's one thing that President Trump is good at, and this has been the impetus for so many of the lawsuits and everything else that have come against President Trump since he went back in for his second term, he is very good at walking the line. There is a line between you definitely can't do that and you can do that. That little gray area of, kind of depends. He is really good at living his political life in that little gray area. And in a way, this action kind of falls into that area. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Because it's obvious which side he's on. It's obvious which side America is on, even though there are going to be detractors, mainly because of who is in charge. But, again, we have not actively participated, so it's still not our circus at this point.
Yeah, but this is one of those things that's changing almost by the minute, despite the fact that we went through a good 12-hour period where no one heard anything, and then all of a sudden now we're starting to hear some things again, and explosions are happening once more and everything else. But, yes, we are going to have people that are against whatever is done. If we don't wade into it, people are going to be upset. If we do wade into it, people are going to be upset. But you got to realize the state of America is, and pretty much always has been, if you start a discussion about which one is better, vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream, there will be fistfights. There will be things thrown. We can't do anything without ticking somebody off, which, as I said before, is freeing. If you're going to make somebody mad no matter what, you might as well do what you think you need to do. Makes the decision-making process maybe a hair easier. We continue on your Tuesday morning on Middays in the Element Wealth Studios right after this. Keep it here.
I've always believed.
It's so awesome! Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Come on, let's get on with the show!
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Thanks for coming along, my friend. Middays in the Element Wealth Studios. Dave Hughes here. And during the break, Rhino, I think, stumbled on to at least the answer to part of the question regarding us getting involved in any type of action in Iran. And I'm going to let him tell you because he's the one thought of it. So he gets full credit here.
Yeah, I was trying to remember whether or not they got the ball across the finish line for repealing the AUMF, the authorized use of military force, that was first enacted in 2001 in response to the September 11th terrorist attacks, which began the war on terror. And as far as I can tell, that has not been repealed. The AUMF from 2002 entering the Iraq War has not been repealed either, but I don't think that would come into play. It would only be the legal requirement of the AUMF from 2001 that would give the president the authority to enact counter-terroristic efforts in any country he deems necessary, which could include Iran.
Oh, I think it should. Let's be honest. We're talking about Iran here. This is not a Girl Scout convention. It's the regime in Iran, the Ayatollah. Terrorism, yeah, that's a big part of what they do. So that would be an easy justification to make, I think. So, as usual, the Democrats, the liberals, are barking up the wrong tree by screaming, he must have congressional authorization to do anything. No, not in this case, I don't think.
But it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Well, that happened 24 years ago. We can't possibly remember that.
Yes, that's exactly right. It is stunning to think about the fact that there are a ton of people out of college already who were not born yet when 9/11 happened. So everything that went on regarding that, they have no conscious recollection of it, and obviously either weren't paying attention or weren't taught about any of this in history and civics class.
And even if they were taught about it, I highly doubt they have as much of an understanding of what went down that day as those that lived that day.
Yes.
Because I vividly remember where I was that day, and I'm still learning things about what happened over the course of that day. Like, it wasn't until just a few years ago that I ever heard about the Great American Boat Lift, where all the different boats from all over the place came together to evacuate people off Manhattan because they couldn't get out any other way.
Yep. Yeah, it was an insane time. It was crazy times, and caught everyone completely off guard. And as a result, we had what everyone at the time fully believed, and I still believe, was a proportional response. Oh, yeah? Was basically our response, as it should have been. You don't punch someone in the mouth and expect them to not hit you back. It's pretty simple. That's why if Iran has any sense whatsoever, they will err on the side of caution and steer far away from any American installations, embassies. If there's a Chuck E. Cheese open somewhere over there, you keep it safe, keep everything. Don't give the slightest justification for us to go, oh, yeah? Because then it ends pretty quickly. The one risk there is, then you risk other people getting involved. And then before you know it, we're back in the 24/7 breaking news nonstop crisis mode. Like we're not now. What am I even saying?
Well, in fairness, at least half of the crises that you see in mainstream media are manufactured or overblown. Like, what's his face? See, nobody remembers him. The guy from California, Padilla.
Yeah,
he had to go to the Senate floor today. I think it was earlier today to talk about what went down on Friday. Like there's not a million things more important to be talking about than his bruised ego.
Yes, and I'm sorry, we all saw the video. Everyone can try to spin that video all they want. We all saw the video. We all know what happened. A grandstanding dingbat in the Senate decided to go try to make a name for himself. He wasn't invited. There wasn't a question and answer session going on. There were no. She was giving a press briefing. Kristi Noem was. She was reading out her prepared remarks. You don't walk in and just start screaming. I wonder how he would react if he was giving a briefing and somebody did that to him. Would he welcome them up to the microphone, or would he tell security to get them to calm down while he finished? Whoever it was. But you're right. When you don't have a leg to stand on with anything, you start making up problems just to try to appear relevant. And that's what's going on with the Democratic Party right now, and what will continue to go on for a while.
That's why the initial reporting on the shooting at the No Kings rally in Utah was all over the place, and then got really quiet when it came out that it was actually a No Kings, quote-unquote, peacekeeper that was hired by the organizers that did the shooting and killed an innocent bystander.
Yeah. All of a sudden, it got really quiet. Speaking of that, did you hear any of the press conference yesterday held by the FBI regarding Bolter, the shooter in Minnesota that killed the state representative and her husband, and shot and wounded the other state representative, state senator, I believe, and his wife in their homes? Did you see that press conference?
I didn't watch it in its entirety, so I didn't get the full context. But the clips I saw from it, again, out of context, do seem pretty damning for local law enforcement.
So,
or at least some.
Yes. In case you don't know about this, they gave the timeline of what happened and how it happened. And the way I think it was actually the U.S. attorney for that area that was talking at the time, outlined exactly what happened and said that law enforcement officers went after Hoffman, the senator, and his wife had been attacked. They were going around checking on other people within a certain radius. When they pulled up to Representative Holtman's house, Bolter was in the yard. He was standing in the yard, had his fake police vehicle there with his fake police vehicle lights going, the emergency lights, in his full get-up, Freddy Krueger mask and everything. They pull up, they get out, they engage him gunfire-wise. They're exchanging gunfire back and forth. Now, I want you to remember the guy specifically said officers. It was more than one officer. Apparently in the middle of this, according to the way it was relayed, the shooter then turned around and entered the house in front of the law enforcement officers, killed the representative and her husband, and then escaped out the back and was missing for 2 days. At best, if that is accurate, and I mean, it's an attorney talking. They're not known for misphrasing things. If that's accurate, at best, that is a complete and utter failure of standard procedures. If there's two of you and somebody goes into a house, well, at least one of you needs to go in and the other one needs to go cover the back door. Seems common sense. No, they both stayed out front and just waited, apparently. Didn't even go in. Just waited. And 2 people were killed by this guy.
Which those statements are counter to the original reporting that they saw him on the doorbell, answered the door, he shined a light in their face, and when he lowered the light, they realized he was not a police officer, and they started saying, "You're not the cops, you're not the police," at which point he forced his way in and started shooting.
The reporting and the information given through official channels has been all over the board. They found a manifesto. Then they didn't find a manifesto. Then, we found a manifesto. There's not a lot of confidence in what information is being released in my eyes right now in that whole situation. You should have a minimum of 2 police officers on paid leave under review if that information, the way it was relayed, was accurate. Because that was not the way it's supposed to work. flashing me back to the school shooting where everybody stayed outside. Breakdown in communication. No. I don't know what the deal was. I'm not sure we'll ever know 100% what the deal was. We'll see. We'll continue on this Tuesday morning on Middays in the Element Wealth Studios right after this. Keep it here.
We interrupt this program. Gerard Gibert.
Here we go.
This is huge.
Huge news. Huge news. Huge. You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Digging deep in the bumper music basket there, Rhino. Love it. Welcome back. Middays in the Element Wealth Studios. SuperTalk, Mississippi. Dave Hughes here. Vice President J.D. Vance made a post on X an hour or two ago, trying to offer some clarity into what's going on with the Iran situation. I'm going to read you part of it because it's a novella. It's a long post for an X post. It says, look, I'm seeing this from the inside, and I am admittedly biased toward our president and my friend, but there's a lot of crazy stuff on social media, so I wanted to address some things directly on the Iran issue. First, and this is true, Trump has been amazingly consistent over 10 years that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. He goes into the details later on of the enrichment and conventional power, and they've got way more than they need for that, and it's of a different quality, so that's not the point here, and Iran has refused that as an offer. He says the president has made clear that Iran cannot have uranium enrichment, and he said repeatedly that this would happen one of two ways, the easy way or the other way, with other in quotation marks. I'm starting to build a sense, Rhino, that as you would hope for, as you would want, President Trump does not want to use the other way. He does not want to go the other way, but he will if he feels like he has to. That's where you want somebody to be that's making these kind of decisions. You don't want Lindsey Graham in charge, for crying out loud. You just don't. There will be stuff blowing up everywhere right now. So he's got the other way, as Vance put it, right there. It's an option. He knows it's an option. He's got it in his back pocket, but he really wants to work this out without going the other way. He said, the president has shown remarkable restraint in keeping our military's focus on protecting our troops and protecting our citizens. He may decide he needs to take further action to end Iranian enrichment. That decision ultimately belongs to the president. And, of course, people are right to be worried about foreign entanglement after the last 25 years of idiotic foreign policy. But I believe the president has earned some trust on this issue, and having seen this up close and personal, I can assure you that he is only interested in using the American military to accomplish the American people's goals. Whatever he does, that is his focus. I do think it's noteworthy that the very first comment on that post by the vice president is somebody saying, what is the other way that you mention? A competitive dance-off. What do you think the other way is? What would you think that meant? They're doing a really good job of not saying we're going to blow you up, while saying, we're going to blow you up. We mean it. They're doing a really good job of walking that line.
I finally put eyes on the Bloomberg reporting about Russia not coming to the aid of Iran. Quote, Iran hasn't asked for Russian help, and Moscow doesn't plan to offer any defense assistance, according to a person close to the Kremlin.
Okay.
It continues, no one can stop Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from pursuing the bombing, and Russia won't be able to act as a mediator to stop the conflict if the goal is regime change, the person said, asking not to be identified, discussing sensitive issues.
I get more tired every day, though, and I understand the reason for it here, but I get more tired every day of undisclosed sources. So what? You ran into a guy in the Walgreens parking lot, and he said, "Hey, by the way," I mean, it could be anybody, it could be anything, which I realize is the point. But still, sometimes we have to have some kind of official word, or just a thought, not report it until we do.
Which there was a point in time where anonymous sources at least made some sense, but that was long before the public lost trust in the mainstream media when they abused anonymous sources to form narratives that were counter to the truth.
Exactly. Anonymous sources have their place, and I'm sure we have some that get questions and looked at askance, because they're anonymous sources that are actually being factual and telling us exactly what's going on. I'm sure that happens. The problem is exactly what you just stated, though. The American media has burned its trust. It piled it all up in the yard and set it on fire because it was a little chilly. And now they don't understand why nobody listens to them. You can't have every single story almost sourced with undisclosed informants or people close to the administration, the official, whatever. Sometimes somebody has to just say something, or we don't spread it around until we get it nailed down. Having said that, that sounds logical to me. That makes sense. Putin's got enough trouble. He's got his own troubles at this point, and might not even have the full capability to go help out if he wanted to with what's going on in Ukraine. So Iran, I told you this during the break, Iran is looking more and more like an island in this entire thing. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to take on all comers when all allies are going, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't think that's going to work out for them in the long run. The question is, are they going to see it, or are they going to go down a suicidal path where we fight to the end even though we know we're losing? It's kind of where we're at right now. At least it looks like it to me.
Which that's likely why you're seeing all the evacuations from Tehran by various countries, because the countries that are wanting their citizens to evacuate are countries that don't want to be pulled into this if their citizens are taken hostage by an increasingly paranoid or desperate Ayatollah.
Yes. Yes. If you start looking at it and analyzing it, the situation becomes a little more clear. It's starting to look to me like the situation in Iran is going to come to the same end no matter how we get there. It's just it's up to them, the process that gets us there at this point. When your allies all back away or just stay quiet, you and I were talking, there's several of them haven't weighed in one way or the other. They want no part of this, not even with a statement. So it's you against whoever else wants to join in. I think we all know where that's going.
And if history repeats itself, like it tends to do, then my statements yesterday saying that the Iranian people likely don't have the appetite for regime change, I very well could have been wrong, because last night, just like what happened recently in Syria, what could be the first domino to fall in that regime change enacted by the Iranian people, if you remember, the first domino to fall in Syria was the major jailbreak of all the political dissidents that then began leading the revolt in Syria to change that government. Iran saw a major prison break in the city of Tehran last night.
With all of the people that don't like the current regime now out and loose in the middle of a war. Yeah. Everything is lining up to where we know where we're going to end up functionally in a 10,000 yard above view. It's just going to be the details of how we get there and how far they're willing to push it. And you would have to think they have come to that realization as well. I can't think that the Ayatollah is sitting there in his secret heart of hearts and still believes he's got a chance to whoop everybody. However, that's not a guarantee that he doesn't believe that, which then makes it a case of how far do we go? How far does he go, and how far does he push it until this comes to an end? We just have to hope we have incredibly good intelligence and we are accurate that they haven't enriched enough uranium to make a bomb. That, to me, is the only big question mark floating around right now. I know, I probably have a simplistic view of this, but it's Tuesday and I'm already tired. What do you expect? We continue, heck, we don't continue. We wrap up on Middays in the Element Wealth Studios right after this with some great advice from crosswalk operators. No, seriously, keep it here.
Gerard Gibert. Going beyond the headlines, breaking down the stories that matter to Mississippi. Middays with Gerard on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Final segment on Middays for a Tuesday. Gerard back in the big chair tomorrow for Middays here in the Element Wealth Studios. Before we go, do you remember the story a little while ago, a few weeks back, out in California? There's a town called Redwood City, and someone hacked into their crosswalks. Number one, let's just pause for a moment and enjoy living in a world where we can say my crosswalk got hacked. But they had buttons and you pushed them and it gave you directions and it spoke in a voice about, when to go, when to stop, wait, come back, whatever. Somebody hacked into it and replaced it with AI generated versions of Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Well, they shut them all down at that point because they were not saying, appropriate things. They have now come out and said that they have, reverted all the changes. Everything has been restored to normal operation, and their official statement from the city manager says, additionally, we have enhanced our internal procedures to help prevent future tampering. What do you think that means, Rhino? That sounds very complicated and official, doesn't it?
They changed the password.
Which was still the default password of 1234 that was put in by the company. They had just left the password 1234, so somebody... is that even a hack at that point? If you're that dumb...
Technically, I think it would still be a hack if they used a cracker because, I can't do the napkin math off the top of my head, but I think if you got 4 combinations, that's what? 10, 12,000 combinations with 4 digits, and that's child's play to a modern computer processor.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't even take a full second But I marveled at that sentence. We have enhanced our internal procedures to help prevent future tampering. We finally set our own password. So this is a friendly reminder. If you have anything that still has the original password that it came with, go change it. Even if it's your crosswalk, go change it, because you are just setting yourself up for absolute disaster. We see the scams going out, the scam text, scam emails, scam Facebook Messenger messages. That's a thing, a big thing right now. They're looking for a million different ways to get you. Why make it easy? Go change your password. Go change your passcode. Go change everything. And do not change it from whatever it is to 1, 2, 3, 4, because then you're making the problem worse instead of better. That's the public service announcement for today. I'm just trying to be helpful. Chevy, by the way, has introduced a new Corvette. The ZR1X hypercar goes from 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds.
That's pretty swift.
They give you whiplash. Top speed, 233 miles an hour. So, in other words, it's a daily driver to go run and get some milk. No, not hardly. And here's the most groan-inducing and/or best part, depending on who you are and where you land on this issue. It's a hybrid. Part electric, part gas. 233 mile an hour max speed, goes from 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. Twin turbo V8 engine in it. I'm pretty sure it's not the hybrid parts getting you from 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds.
For a second there, I thought they might have adopted the recent announcement from Koenigsegg, the European manufacturer. They recently announced that they have a 39-kilogram electric motor that can deliver 800 horsepower.
Wow. That's almost kind of scary. What are they, bolt lead bars on the inside of the engine compartment to weight it down properly?
Or they just made a really fast car, because to convert kilograms to pounds, to get it into freedom units, I'm pretty sure that's 86 pounds?
Yeah.
So an 86-pound electric motor can pump out 800 horsepower and over 1,200 foot-pound of torque.
And on the bright side, on a full charge, you can travel almost a full mile. Because it's burning through the electricity,
Gotta
right?
be.
Dude, I've enjoyed it as I always do. Once again, we have solved all the world's problems. It's a shame nobody pays attention to us. Well, what you going to do?
One of these days.
Have a good time, my friend, and I will see you again very soon.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.